Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Karin Vecchiacci. I'm project manager here at Dutcham. And since June, Dutcham has started to think and promote some events regarding the COPs, mainly with the Sustainability Committee, not only because of the importance that businesses have in addressing the climate crisis, but also because Brazil is hosting the COP next year. In this sense, we thought about today's webinar as a broad approach to what happens in the COPs, what to pay attention to, and how to make the best experience out of it. And for that, I'm very pleased to have joining us here today directly from the Netherlands, Mirian Keuning and Willem van Tor, who make up the COP team at VNO-NCW, a very well-known Dutch business federation, and also Ricardo Assumpção, Chief Sustainability Officer at EY here in Brazil. So let me give you a quick overview of our agenda today. After this quick opening, we will hear the COP team at VNO-NCW. Willem will talk a little bit about what's on the current agenda and what the private sector can experience at the COPs. Mirian will address a little bit how can observers ensure a productive participation at COPs. And later on, Ricardo Assumpção will talk mainly about the last COP, this year's COP and next year's COP, 28, 29, and 30, and how these discussions can lead to creating value and effectively contributing to decarbonization. Then we will sum up a little bit of all this information and open up for questions and answers. I know some of you have certainly been participating in other events and discussions about the COPs, and make sure if there's something specific you want to question, to make a question about this event or general questions about the COPs, feel free to write in the question and answer icon, and I will certainly transmit the question to our panelists. You can notice that this is a different format than a regular meeting. We cannot see you or hear you, so our communication way is through the question and answer icon. If your connection fails, make sure you can come in through the same link. You can use the same link to connect to the webinar again. And in the end, we'll have a QR code and you can evaluate our webinar. So thank you so much all for being here. And let's give a warm welcome to Willem and Mirian.
Yes, thank you very much, Karen. And me and Willem, we are very happy to be here. I'll start to introduce myself and have a small kickoff, and then Willem will introduce himself and tell you also a little bit of something about the COP and his experience during the COP. So Willem and I, we're representing VNO-NCW, that's the Dutch Confederation of Business and Employers, Industry and Employers, also sometimes used. We represent 90 to 95% of the Dutch private sector. We are, I think, the largest lobby organization in the Netherlands, and part of holding the interests of our members is, getting them the right information about the right trends, but also events that are happening nationally, but also globally. And the COP is obviously one of the most important climate-related events every year. And many of our members, many parts of our constituency are really related and focused on climate-related solutions and innovations. So what we as VNO do every year is make sure that in a timely manner, we are in touch with the different ministries, departments, but also other organizations and institutes that are active around the COP. And in the Netherlands, there are two ministries that are mainly focusing on the organization of and around the COP, and that's the Ministry of Economic Affairs and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So we share information with them, and we discuss, for instance, what kind of focus
the COP has, but also how what the program looks like. And in that way, we are able to inform our members about how to best approach or how to best to determine which focus is best to hold for that specific COP. So the COP 28, 29 were visited by Willem. He will give you a kind of an idea how that works. And then afterwards, I'll be taking over from Willem again, just to inform you what as a company you can do to make sure that you are in a timely manner, well informed and well positioned with your possible participation at the COP. So
yeah, thank you. So the COP is taking place every year all around the globe. And the COP is, of course, about climate and about climate agreements. So actually, there's two, for you, I think it's relevant to say there's two sides to the COP. There's the diplomatic side, where countries together with the heads of state discuss about the climate agreement, about how to follow up. This is the diplomatic side where the countries themselves, so the states themselves, are active in. And then there's the whole other part of the COP, and that's all the stakeholders, besides the governments, that discuss with each other how can we make the climate transition possible, what is needed, which innovations are needed, how to include other groups that are maybe less advantaged. All these discussions are also taking place. And of course, from a content point of view, it's interesting to follow the diplomatic developments, and that is also always sorry, there was some disturbance here. So on the one hand, there's the diplomatic talks, and we follow that, of course. But the second one, the stakeholder conventions, that is the part that we are active in, and we do that with a lot of other people, a lot of other stakeholders. Imagine that the COP will be attended by tens of thousands of people from all over the world, from all kinds of stakeholders. So it will kind of be messy, and it will kind of be uncertain to a large extent, and to very short term before the COP. So this will be just something to accept. And then maybe about what can you expect on the COP. There is the diplomatic blue zone, in which there will be all the discussions by the heads of states. And then there's a kind of green. It's called the green zone, where every stakeholder can meet each other. And this is the green zone is the zone where it's the most easily accessible zone, most interesting for companies. And also, you don't need a specific entrance badge to enter the green zone. For the blue zone, the diplomatic zone, there's also possibility for companies to attend, but you will always need a badge. And these badges are provided by the states, also the Netherlands, the government of the Netherlands, and we ourselves are not in any way responsible for providing the badges. So what we do is focus on the talks beyond the diplomatic talk. So how to combine stakeholders, how to work together to address global challenges, and how the Dutch business sector can provide and can attribute to these innovations. And we do that in both zones where possible, in cooperation with the government, trying to make it as good. Well, we try to help you with providing you with all the opportunities that are possible within the boundaries of this whole zone, blue and green zone constituency, to have discussions or debates, or to provide papers, or have other kinds of presentations. I think this is a little bit short introduction to the.
Yeah. And I think just to make the very practical and concrete twist to it. So as a company, what we always advise our members is to make sure that you create with all the organizations and all the ministries and all the stakeholders involved, to create kind of a marketplace where companies that are planning on visiting the COP can actually express that wish, and also provide everyone with input on what it is that they want to do there. So what is your proposition? What is the reason that you want to be there? And then we try to match that with organizations, but also with the country itself hosting the COP, or other ministries that actually have pavilions or stages where they are looking for certain topics, speakers, and panel discussions. And that's where we want to make the link, to make sure that the right people are at the right place talking about the, for them, relevant topics together. So that is what me and Willem, together with a third colleague who was not here today, unfortunately, but he is a part of the COP team. That's what we are every year trying to support a lot, is to make sure that we know what everyone wants, we know what everyone offers, and that is how we want to create the most valuable program for everyone participating at the COP.
And maybe one addition, that it is not so much a commercial event.
Yeah.
So even for you as a company, don't expect to have all kinds of deals, but it's about showcasing how, as a company or part of a conglomerate or something, can contribute to all these challenges that are laid out on the table at the COP, on climate change, on food transition, on energy transition, all these kinds of topics, and how you as a company can, well, with your innovation, contribute to it. And I think all the discussions, all the panelists are all focused on this, how with collaborating you can bring these developments forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Willem and Miriam. We have already Ricardo, who may introduce himself, and we'll talk a little bit more about the importance of paying attention to last year's COP, this year's COP, and next year's COP, and what information and opportunities we can get out of them. Thank you for being here, Ricardo.
Karin, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. So let me introduce myself. I'm a partner at EY, and I'm in charge of all of our sustainability solutions for the Latin region, 11 countries here in Latin. And I'm also the Chief Sustainability Officer for our region. Actually, COP is an environment that I'm part during the last maybe 8 years. And I believe that it's important to understand that COPs, we speak about challenge, but is an opportunity to understand all the opportunities that we have there for the private sector as well. So as you know, the COPs, the Conference of Parties, are made of countries. So the countries are the parties. And just more recently from the Paris COP, where they launched or they agreed on the Paris Agreement, they understand that they should have a department in charge of the private sector. Because the countries, they have their NDCs, their goals related with the carbon emissions. But in the end of the day, all these emissions depend on the private sector and the production sector and the industry, the hard-to-abate sectors. In Brazil, you know that more than 70% of our emissions came from the land use and deforestation, but in the global north, most of the emissions came from the energy or the fossil fuel burn. So they understood that the private sector should be an important place in all these conversations. I'm represented EY in the last 3 COPs. And before that, I was an entrepreneur, and my previous company was a specialist and create opportunities between the UNFCCC, the UN Climate Change, and the private sector, and understand how the private sector could contribute to decrease the emissions of carbon. So why this COP this year is so important, and the next COP that will take place in Brazil will be so important. I don't know if you are aware, but we call the COP of Dubai, the COP 28, the COP 29, and the COP 30, the Troika. So those three COPs has a unique importance because we are in a moment that in the last 14 months, we crossed the line of the 1.5 degrees. So we are at a risk that, for example, to transform the south of the Amazon in a savanna. We are facing a lot of extreme events, as we recently saw in the south portion of Brazil, the droughts in the Amazon, and the heat waves that we are facing here in the southeast as well. So those three COPs has a unique importance because we need to understand what we need to do and how we can collaborate, companies or businesses, governments, and civil society to create solutions that will protect the world from the already observed impacts. So I believe that COP29 that will take place in 1 month now in Azerbaijan will be like a COP not so big as we saw in Dubai, where more than 90,000 people attend. Probably will have in this COP in Azerbaijan about 55,000 people attending. And the COP in Brazil, we expect to have about 100,000 people attending. So this particular COP or COP at all is an important is important for businesses for several reasons, and I will share a couple of reasons with you. First, because the regulatory impact. COPs often result in international agreements that can lead to new regulations affect businesses' operation. So companies need to stay informed about these developments to ensure compliance and to anticipate challenges that might affect the industry. As you know, recently Brazil is the first country to adopt mandatory the adoption of ISSB S1 and S2 for public companies. So that means that public companies in the B3 here, Bovespa, they must report how the climate risk will affect their financial balance. So their financial statements. And this is important, and companies will need to act. The second reason that I believe that COP is so important for businesses is because of the investor relations. So investors are increasingly interested in how companies are addressing climate change, and participating in COPs or alignment with their outcomes can demonstrate a company's commitment to sustainability and potentially attracting more investment. A third point that I would like to mention is about risk management. So normally COPs highlight the risks associated with climate change, such as I mentioned before, extreme weather events and resource scarcity. So businesses need to understand these risks to manage them effectively and to develop resilient long-term strategy. Another important point is the supply chain sustainability. In the last COP, we saw that COP emphasized the importance of reducing emissions through the supply chain. So businesses may need to adapt their supply chain management to meet new standards and expectations that we will see probably in the next 2 years. By participating in COP, businesses can normally engage the policymakers and contribute to the dialogue on climate action. Potentially, of course, influence policies in a way that will favor their strategic interests. So COPs provide a platform for businesses to collaborate with governments, NGO, and other important stakeholders to develop these joint initiatives and partnerships for climate actions. So COPs has a huge importance for private sector and for companies. But speaking a little bit more about this COP 29, what we should expect from this COP, and then I will speak a little bit more about opportunities for companies that have operations in Brazil and how to leverage their participations, aiming COP30 that will take place in 2025 in Belém. So first, this COP29 will be a financial COP. Probably the discussion will be around how to attract and how to provide all the financial needs to the transition. This is not a new subject. We have been speaking about that probably in the last 10 COPs, in the last 10 years, but we still don't have the scale and the speed needed providing investments from not only from governments, but from private sector and from the capital market, and how to create instruments to finance innovation, to finance scale. So all the discussions will be around that. We will discuss a lot about the national determined contributions, so the country goals. Countries are expected to present updated and more ambitious NDCs, their goals, which outline their commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And probably we'll see a lot of discussions around climate impacts. So, and how these climate impacts that we already seeing here, they will affect the medium and long term, mainly for sectors like the financial sector, oil and gas industry, mining industry, agribusiness in Brazil, and cement companies. So we'll see a lot of discussions around that. As I mentioned, I believe that climate finance will be the central point of this COP. We will again discuss about loss and damage. So the issue of loss and damage, which refers with the impact of climate change that cannot be mitigated or adapted, is expected to be a critical topic, in my opinion. There may be further development of mechanisms to support countries that are disproportionately affected by climate change. This is a challenge, but this is an opportunity as well, because during the last 5 years, when we speak about the Global South, the countries above the equator line, we always say about the risks. We understand a lot about the risks. We understand a lot how we were affected by the emissions from the global north. But we spoke not so much about what kind of solutions we can provide here in the global south. What kind of solutions we can provide here in Brazil that can support net zero strategy. What is the role of nature, biodiversity, and the biomas in businesses' net zero strategy? So when we speak about loss and damage, we need to discuss the opportunities and the solutions that we can develop in the Global South. Another important topic for COP29 will be the implementation and accountability. So this COP may focus on the implementation of the Paris Agreement and the mechanisms to ensure transparency and accountability in meeting climate targets. I don't know if you are aware, but in the last COP, we had the global stocktake. So the global stocktake was a discussion to understand where we are. So understanding where we are make more easy, we understand what we need to do. So depending on the timing of this COP29 and the discussions that we'll see there, we will see some evolutions regarding to the stocktake. So this is important, and mainly I believe will be important to understand the opportunities behind all of that. We speak a lot about risks, but I really believe that we need to start speaking more about opportunities. Fighting climate change, the main topic about COP, normally brings opportunities. In my opinion, we need to understand how to continue creating value for businesses at the same time that we can create positive side effect to the society and to the planet, to the environment. In this COP29, we will start to see more discussions around nature-based solutions. Nature-based solutions are solutions, as you know, that to understand better how nature can contribute to the climate crisis. And there may be a push for greater recognition and implementation of nature-based solutions in the COP. So we will see Brazil and other countries from Global South with more strong commitments with the legal deforestation, with reforestation, with conservation and restoration of ecosystems. Today is more clear for us the whole that all these tools can represent, and we have an idea, a better idea how they can contribute reducing emissions. We will see in this COP innovation and technology play an important role as well, and this is completely connected with opportunities. And of course, we will see again discussions around adaptation and resilience. As the impact of climate change become more pronounced, there will be probably a more focus on adaptation measures to protect vulnerable populations here in the Global South, in Latin America, and especially, and how to build resilience against these extreme weather events that we are seeing and other climate-related hazards. So this will be probably the main discussions around COP29. I believe is an important opportunity for businesses to be there, to influence the policymakers, to understand how they can create new solutions, bring more innovation, and help the climate crisis. Then we have COP30. COP30 will be a very special occasion. First, COP30 will be the first COP in the forest. It will be not a COP about the forest, but will happen at the forest, at the heart of the Amazon. So it will be very symbolic. COP30 will be the COP that the countries will need to present their revised NDCs. And this will be very important. As I mentioned in the beginning of my speech, we saw in the last 15 months the world crossing the line of the 1.5 degrees. That means that there is a strong chance that we are achieved the Paris Agreement target. And this is a risk. So this will put another layer of pressure in the countries to present more aggressive NDCs in the COP in Brazil. COP in Brazil will highlight the potential of the companies that operate here in create solutions related with use and mainly in the agribusiness sector. The agribusiness sector produces a lot of innovations from SAF, for example, the sustainable aviation fuel, from the sugarcane production that we call alcohol to jet. This is an opportunity, an extreme opportunity for Brazil, for example. Brazil is a leader in non-till farming, and I believe that we can show to the world what we can do best producing, or how we can produce more innovation in land use, in conserving ecosystems. So the COP30, in my opinion, will be a slight different COP from the other COPs. So, and will be the last COP of the Troika. So just remembering, Troika is how we call the COP28, COP29, and COP30, because the three of them has a huge importance for us to achieve and to tackle climate change. About COP30 as well, the global will pay attention a lot in Brazil, because if we lost, for example, the south portion of the Amazon because of illegal deforestation, we will not be able to not even achieve 2.0 degrees of warming. We will go to a path of almost 3 degrees. So it's an opportunity for the world to understand how we can create effective solutions to protect the biomes, to protect nature. And the success of COP30 is connected with the success of the COP16. I don't know if you are all aware, but in the next week, actually in 2 weeks, we will have another COP that is not the COP29 and is not the COP30, of course, is the COP16. COP16 is the biodiverse COP. So the COPs that we usually see and that we are aware, so COP29 this year, COP30 next year, they are climate COPs. But every 2 years, we have these biodiverse COPs as the COP16 that will take place in Cali, Colombia. So this COP16 will be huge important because in the last COP of the biodiversity, the COP15 that took place in Montreal 2 years ago, we discussed what we call the Global Biodiversity Framework. Is the Paris Agreement for nature. What it means? That biodiversity is at risk. And losing biodiversity, we accelerate the climate crisis. So this global biodiversity framework will be the central discussion at this COP in Cali, COP 16, and will be completely related with nature. And we will understand better, if we lose biodiversity, how this can contribute to a worst scenario in climate change. And as I mentioned before, COP30 is related with nature as well. So the success of this COP16 will be probably, or will indicate the success of COP30. There is a lot of opportunity to explore in the COP in Brazil. So if you want to understand more how to participate or how to be part of COP, normally we have two ways. The first is with the host country. In COP30, of course, Brazil. The host country normally offer opportunities for businesses, as I heard from Willem, in the green zone. The green zone is the non-negotiation zone. Normally, it's open for the public, and the host country with along UNFCCC, they are planning to transform this open zone, the green zone, in a business zone, and a more robust business zone. So, and this will be a huge opportunity for companies to take part of the COP in Brazil, because the green zone in Brazil, we know that will be very different from what we saw in the last 3 COPs. So we'll be more focused on businesses. We'll be like a small COP for business. So discussions around what the private sector can do, discussions around new solutions that private sector are bring to the table. So I believe it will be a huge opportunity. And I can send you more information about how to participate in this green zone in Brazil. They are not open, but the government has already emitted some opinions, and we are in conversation with them, of course, to understand how our clients can participate. On the other hand, UNFCCC, the UN Climate Change, as I mentioned, since the COP, the Paris COP, they create a resource mobilization department. It's a private sector department inside the UN Climate Change. And this is another way to participate into COP. So businesses can create what they call partnership agreement with UNFCCC and be part of the negotiation zone. This is not common because in the negotiation zone, the blue zone, we normally see the countries, or in somehow we saw NGOs, but we never see the private sector there. And this is an opportunity, this partnership agreement that can be signed between businesses and the UNFCCC, create opportunities for the private sector to be part of the negotiation zone. I can send you more information about that. This year, probably we'll see in Baku a lot of companies inside the blue zone together along with the UNFCCC. And in the COP de Brazil, in Brazil, we'll see businesses in both zones, the green zone and the blue zones. So I believe that, and not just to finish here this initial conversation, COP is one opportunity, but is not all the agenda related with climate change during the year. So normally COPs are a big party where everybody meets there, but all the agreements, all the discussions happens along the year. So they are happening right now. They happened last week in New York in the Climate Week. Probably most of you are aware the New York Climate Week is an important place for discussions around climate change, and normally it happens before the COPs. So why I'm saying that? I not recommend to put all the efforts in COPs. Businesses that want to be part of this environment, that want to influence policymakers, that want to influence the standards of emissions, they must participate in a more long-term strategy. So not only in COPs, but understand how to go to COP and having better positions or announcements or agreements already discussed in the previous events, in previous forums along the year. Karin, I believe that this is what I have to say, and I'm open for questions that eventually we have here.
Thank you so much, Ricardo, for this thorough explanation. Willem and Miriam, thank you so much for the introduction as well. We do have 4 questions here. I think the first few are a bit for Ricardo, but if Willem and Miriam want to answer as well, please do so. The first one is, talking about the importance of the participation of businesses. And also this last thing that you said, the participation in the long term throughout the year. The question is, how do we get the right businesses involved? In other words, we know that some companies are already much involved in providing solutions, looking for solutions, and have that engagement. But we know there's a large number of companies that are still wondering what's going on. How can we impulse, the participation, and maybe the COP in Brazil is a challenge for us here in Brazil to gather these that don't know much what's going on, to make them aware. But from your point of view, and maybe in the Netherlands as well, how do we engage the ones that are not so engaged at first, and the importance of such a big event to gather them and be part of the discussions?
Great. This is a great question, Karin. Maybe I can start and then pass to Willem or Isabel. COP we have a limited space at COPs. That's why I don't want to put all the efforts, and I recommend that businesses, they don't put all the efforts in just one COP. COP, normally we see large companies there, large companies that are at risk, industries that need to transform. But one of the answers for that, Karin, is this is a value chain matter. So large companies that is likely more subject to regulations, and regulations are coming. As I mentioned, Brazil is the first country to become mandatory, adopt how climate risks will affect the financial statements. But this is occurring globally. So we have the CSRD that probably all of you are aware. We have CBAN. We have the ISSBS 1 taking part in many other countries, in India and in Turkey and other countries. We have the SEC with their regulations coming as well. So these large companies that are likely to be more affected to regulations, they will pressure all the supply chain upstreaming and the downstreaming to adopt more robust standards related with the global warming, and the climate change. So I believe that large companies has a huge role in transforming and influence other large companies and small and medium companies, because we know that emissions are half of them came from large companies, public companies, but the other half, 50%, came from large, medium, and small companies that are part of these ecosystems. So what I recommend is that businesses need to create programs focus on giving more information about their goals, what they are doing, and how they are participating in these forums, and making other companies understand that creating a robust agenda in climate change, normally there is a strong correlation and bringing more innovation to their business, being more effective. So it's more cost effective to embed sustainability inside business strategy. So this is what I recommend there to do. First, to transform this in a value chain and supply chain problem.
Perfect, Ricardo, thank you. We have a second question here, and this is probably related to loss and damage and the vulnerable population, as you mentioned. And the question relates to water management in Brazil. So do you think water management will be addressed mainly in next year's COP, considering that Brazil still faces a serious problem related to water access? We are a country of water, but on the other hand, there is scarce access to water in various regions, to quality water and water treatment and so on. Do you think this is an important topic that will be addressed next year here? I think your mic is closed, Ricardo.
Okay, you can hear me now? Yeah,
Yes.
You can hear me now, Kari?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I really believe water is a central point, not only for COP in Brazil, but for this COP right now. Water management is a key component of adaptation to climate change. So with COP discussions often include strategy for managing water resource in the face of changing precipitation patterns, for example, melting glaciers, rising sea levels, and more frequent and severe droughts and floods. So water is in the central point. In the case of Brazil, that a major part of water is used in the agribusiness sector, and Brazil is responsible today to feed about 2 billion people globally, and agribusiness is responsible for 20% of our GDP here in Brazil. Water is crucial. So I saw a lot of discussions around water last COP. We will see a lot of discussions about water in this COP, and Brazil, this will be a central point. And another important topic is that we will start to see more initiatives around water reuse or recycled water. We have countries and states in the US, for example, some countries in Europe that we already drink recycled water. And this probably is a tendency and is a trend, and we'll see this happens more often. And of course, energy production in Brazil, large part of energy came from water. So for sure, we'll see a lot of discussions around that.
Okay, great. There are two questions here, and I'll join them as one. And I think they're probably more for Willem and Miriam. basically, both of you mentioned a little bit, but can ordinary people participate on COP30 agenda by sign up? Certainly, but I think you can answer better. And the other question I would like to join is for Dutch companies in Brazil, the way to participate in the country pavilions. Is it the Dutch country pavilion, the Brazilian country pavilion? How to better connect, where to participate in the green zone? Mainly when Ricardo said that probably COP30, the green zone will be focused on really on a business zone. So first question, let's say ordinary people, if they're not related to an NGO, or can they just show up, get a ticket or not? And how do companies better address the country's pavilion?
Yeah, so the first, Ricardo mentioned it a little bit as well. So the green zone is open to everybody, but it depends per country how they do it. So I think it's still to be seen how Brazil will organize people's attendance to COP, to green zone. So it's just still to be seen, but they will, ordinarily they will provide, especially inhabitants of the host country with all the specifics how to join. So to be seen. And the second one, I think this is precisely our role to all the companies, the Dutch companies in Brazil and our members to as a platform to have a matchmaking with the opportunities in both of the zones, the green zone and the blue zone. We said that the green zone is easily accessible, the blue zone is not, but there are pavilions of a lot of countries, also of other organizers that will be open to businesses attending, also Dutch businesses. And we as VNO-NCW try to team up with the Dutch government in the Dutch government pavilion with a program. But every year it's very difficult to do that because they focus on the negotiations and less on the pavilion itself. So as a company, if you want to do something in the blue zone, I think two things or three things. We can keep you updated on our efforts in that, and it's also good to see to broaden your scope as wide as possible to see what kind of other countries or other organizers with pavilions would be interested in hosting us, because that's the most important thing, to find a host that suits your aim. And it could be the Dutch pavilion, but it could also be the Brazilian one, or the Ocean Pavilion one, or the UN one. There's loads of them. So don't limit your options only on one pavilion. That's an important message to give, because there will be a lot of interested parties in all of the pavilions.
And just to add to that, Karen, I think like an organization like the Dutcham in Brazil, you can actually play a pretty key part in this, because what we mentioned, or what we noticed, for instance, during the COP in Dubai, is that the Netherlands Business Council there was actually having very good contacts with connections with the COP organizations, that's really key, as well as with the Dutch embassy. So they knew exactly at a certain point which kind of organizations, but also which kind of governments actually were facilitating different possibilities for the private sector at COP. So your role can be pretty crucial in inventizing who is doing what and which opportunities there are for your members.
Perfect, Miriam. I think that's great. We'll look into it, and we'll be very pleased to help out businesses. And obviously, we'll contact you many times from now on to get all the tips as well. We did have one last question here, but our time is up. Just to let you know, it was addressed to Ricardo and basically it says in your vision, how can we speed up and scale financing? I know it's complex. Most of the COPs deal with that, but it's a crucial time. And you talked a lot about innovation, and innovation needs financing. So in short words, Ricardo, what do you think it's a way for financing to be more in the picture in this year's and next year's COP?
You already gave the answer, Kari. It's more easy to finance innovation than finance climate change. So we need to show that bringing more innovation contributes to the climate change, to fight climate change. So, of course, now we don't have the answer. I'm not so optimistic about how to finance, how to finance and how to bring or to increase the capital flow to that. We know that a large part of the capital they don't arrive properly at the projects that need to receive money. So we need to revise these ecosystems, create more or new financial tools to solve the problem. But in the end of the day, we need to finance innovation, and then we will automatically tackle climate change. And just a correction, the COP in Brazil, the green zone, for sure, they are planning to have a business area in the green zone, but it's an open space for the population, for the public. And Brazil expects to be the more democratic COP ever. So we should expect a lot of people going to COP. The public from not only from the state of Pará, but from other parts of the country, and they can attend in the green zone, but we know that we will have a lot of open space for the populations, like fun zones, something like that.
Great, Ricardo, thank you so much. We've passed on 2 minutes on our schedule, and I thank everybody's participation on such a insightful agenda here, that brief but very constructive. Thank you, Miriam, Willem, and Ricardo. And if we have here a QR code that you can evaluate our webinar, and I hope to see you in one more of our events. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Bye-bye.